Well, I think we're living in a very exciting time right now while the president's at the G20 and the 4th of July is, 6 days out there.
Yeah, I totally agree. Any particular thoughts on the things being covered? I know that the audience has had a curiosity regarding what the president is going to be saying, particularly with the keep out zones that Chairman Xi has been limiting the president to say. In other words, not letting him talk about the Spratly Islands and the rest of that business. So, any thoughts? I've had my head pretty close to the grindstone here on covering the Bidens and the Kerrys. I haven't looked at that.
Well, I thought you were more than generous to them. I would have been much harder on both of them, actually all of them. They're remnants of the cabal that's been destroyed. As far as what's going on in China, I don't know. And I wish I could find where I could watch the video you're posting. I know I'm on it, but I don't see it anywhere. But this is just my opinion and my observation. But I think that the GCR, the Global Currency Reset, and the ZIM issue have been a frustration to the president. And keep in mind that it's the Chinese that are behind these things. And so if it's been a frustration of the president, it's certainly been a frustration of the Chinese. But I applaud President Donald J. Trump, because rather than get wrapped around the axle with what could have been, I think he's capitalizing on what has become necessary. The GCR and the redemption should have happened long ago. One of the holdups, I believe, once again, this is my opinion, I'm not speaking for you or anyone else, but I believe that these good things, these global blessings, have been delayed by a tag team involving Mike Pence, the temporary vice president, and Steven Mnuchin, the outgoing secretary of the Treasury. And I know that Trump and his group have been stating, they don't state it real loud and clear, but they do state it, that there's going to be 2 openings in the administration here pretty soon. I'm not a gambler, but I'm also not asleep. I would expect that Mnuchin and Pence might find themselves either gone or really handcuffed. Donald Trump is not happy with the fact that these blessings have been held up from the world by somebody in his own administration. Now, the shoe's on the other foot, and Trump is over there at the G20, and I anticipate that China and the U.S. are going to announce a trade deal, which will be a feather in his cap. Pardon my throat. I talk too much, and a lot of people will agree with that statement. But yeah, it's good to have the humor. I think Trump is going to generate a huge amount of support, and perhaps a lot of ship jumpers jumping from the sinking Democratic mob and jumping over to the ever strengthening Republican Party. And so if I were to, I've given Donald Trump advice numerously through a cutout, and believe it or not, sometimes he actually takes my advice. One of my pieces of advice recently that he appears to have took otherwise, and I'm not the only one giving him this type of advice, but I suggested he didn't want to be hanging around England on the night of June 6th. On the night of June 6th, I believe he left and went over to Normandy to be there at sunrise. But I'm one of several people that said you may wish to get out of England before the end of June 6th. The English people have run the United States of America as a colony going back to 1606. They felt pretty comfortable in 1871 when they had the Organic Act, and so they made it quite public that the United States was a colony of the British monarchy and the Jesuit branch of the Vatican. And I certainly believe that neither the case anymore. And of course, if we're not under the thumb of England anymore, and it's my belief that's the case, then we're not under the thumb of the IRS or the American Bar Association, which are both in history, I mean, up until June 6th, they both were basically undeclared combatants for the benefit of England and to a lesser degree the Vatican, and contrary to the best interest of the American people. So I'm very happy, and everyone who witnessed the reaction of Queen Elizabeth II in the time frame June 4 to June 6, they could probably see the physical relief on her face. She didn't have to, she didn't have to be the one most guilty of abusing Americans via the IRS and the American Bar Association. Those days are over. And I look forward to Donald Trump on July 4th when he speaks. I think that things like the GCR and the redemption of certain bonds will have taken place. And Donald Trump, this is my belief, and if I'm embarrassed later because I'm all wrong, I can handle that. But I don't think I'm wrong. I think he's going to come back with a July 4th message that includes that we are independent for the first time since 1606, that we are going to have the global economy inverted for the benefit of the global commoners, not just the U.S. people, not just the English-speaking world, which is called the Anglophile, but everyone. And for people that have tried to figure out what's going on with China, the U.S., Russia, and Zimbabwe, well, there's incredible wealth under the ground in Zimbabwe, and the Chinese have known about it for a long time. And if you listen to the mainstream media or the libtards, they think China is an enemy. Well, China is sort of a big country, just like the U.S. or Russia. And there's good guys and there's bad guys. The good guys in China are working with the Trump administration in the U.S. and Vladimir Putin and his group in Russia. And I truly believe they're trying to effectively spread the wealth, contain the cabal, and usher in peace. And if you just look at the military might of Russia, the United States, and China, if we're working on the same side, it's pretty unlikely anybody else is going to want to take on that three-headed monster. So I guess I'm very, very optimistic. And you know what? I'm also a big boy. I'm 69 years old. And if I'm wrong, I'll certainly do a show myself on the 4th of July after Donald Trump speaks. And I'll say, well, I guess I was wrong. But until I'm proven wrong, I'm going to assume I'm seeing this correctly and that there's some very good things coming for the people of the United States, for the good people of every other country. And it's going to be really sort of a bad deal for the cabal, for the New World Order, for the Bush crime family, for the Clinton crime family. The McCain crime family has already been dealt with. And my sister, Christine Marcy, is strangely quiet. So the last place I was aware of her being was in the City of London. For those of your listeners that might not know what the City of London is, it's sovereign territory in the United Kingdom, just as the Vatican is sovereign territory in Italy, and Washington, D.C. is sovereign territory in the United States. And those three previous sovereign territories are going to be crushed, and they're going to be crushed by a global consortium that wants to end war. War has never done anything for the United States of America except have some of our best, I'm not going to say the brightest, but some of the brightest people in America are sadly working for the other side, but they're going to be dealt with. We're just over 10,900 sealed indictments, and there's a great roundup going on as we speak. And I'm sure that Donald John Trump will be discussing that on the 4th of July. Pardon me for the run-on sentence. Over to you, good dog.
Actually, no, I'm sitting here taking notes. And there's several things that you brought up that are absolutely fascinating. And one of them, I'm not sure I agree with. So let's start with a thing that is a bit of a challenge. And let me characterize it. Let's talk about July 4th and what's going to happen there.
Okay.
You mentioned Russia, China, United States possibly being in partnership. The challenge I've got is that I've been doing research on what happened after Biden did the deal, and we haven't really covered it in the show yet. We're about to get there on Monday, and the problem is that as soon as they had that meeting in December of 2013, you saw a flurry of development activity down in the South China Sea, areas that the United Nations has stepped forward and says, you don't own that. Yet they stepped forward and they jumped in and they started building landing strips on reefs and building it up. And so if we've got a situation, as you suggest, that we're all working together, we're all one big happy family, then why are they doing that? I guess that would be my first challenge to that.
Okay. Well, I guess I cannot answer you, but we're in a time of global flux right now. And I think it's very unclear to most of us who's aligned with who. But I will stand by my comment that I truly believe that China, Russia, and the United States under Trump wish for no more wars. But let's say that China's building landing strips on atolls or islands or built up islands. Well, those landing strips could be used for allies of China too. What if the United States of America and Russia became allies with China in the interest of eliminating war? Because war, as far as I'm concerned, please correct me if I'm wrong. That way I won't have to wait to correct myself on the 4th of July. But, I think that China, Russia, and the United States, I don't think any of those three countries believe that war is good for them. It may be good for the arms manufacturers. It may be good for the people that want to keep the entire global community, 7.5 billion members of the global commoners. They want to divide and conquer. But I think that maybe the world has grown beyond that. The people that are trying to do the currency reset and the bonds in a variety of countries, they're trying to spread the wealth while the Bidens and the Clinton crime family, the Bush crime family, and my sister Christine Marcy, I'll spell that for your listeners, Kristine, Marcy, Marcy. My sister Christine Marcy gave the guy that most of your listeners think is named Obama. He's not. He went to my high school in Hawaii, and when he was in high school, in the class of 1979 at Punahou, I'll spell that, Punahou. I was in the class of 67 at Punahou, and I was registered as Field McConnell Christian U.S. When Obama was at Punahou in the class of 79, he was registered as Barry Soetoro, surname Soetoro, and he was listed as Barry Soetoro, Indonesian Muslim. And these facts have not changed. They will never change. The only thing that has changed is the availability of the records. They've been scrubbed from Punahou. I used to, as a Punahou graduate, I used to be able to get into the Punahou website and observe the fact that he was indeed registered as Barry Soetoro. Now the only place that I'm sure you can read that is on the middle windows of my 1996 hearse, where it says Barry Soetoro, Punahou 79. And some people are concerned about me because they think I'm sticking my finger in the eye of a bear. No, I'm not. I'm generally sticking my finger in the eye of some sexual deviants that have basically taken control of the United States government up until the 20th of January of 2017, when Trump came in. And now the people with the deviant lifestyles, yes, they're still trying to teach kids in New York or Boston that they should dress up like transgenders and be promiscuous. Yes, they're trying to poison the minds of the United States youth. But this is not new. In your generation and mine, which is effectively the same, the Tavistock Institute over in the United Kingdom basically created the Beatles And the Beatles were created to poison the morality of the young people in the United States of America. They weren't the only ones, but they were the most successful ones. But you know, for guys and ladies who like the Beatles, and I'm one who does, I feel very bad for John Lennon and his son Sean Lennon, that he was murdered in October of 1980, I believe, at the Dakota Apartments in New York City, because he was about ready to expose the Tavistock Institute as being a branch of the UK corporate world, might get into martial law. And
departing the Trump organization.
It ends where?
In McDonald's.
Oh, okay. Well, it also, in 1989, adolescent males were being transported by jet aircraft from two locations. Offutt Air Force Base in, that's actually in Bellevue. Everyone thinks it's in Omaha, but let's make it easy on everybody. Let's say Warren Buffett and Offutt, O-F-F-U-T-T, Air Force Base are effectively in Omaha. Warren Buffett and a group called, well, the Franklin Cover-Up was a exposure of the group that was taking adolescent males from Nebraska Boys Town out to Washington, D.C. And the other source of male, not witting, they weren't willing, they were forced. They were forced into pedophile acts. I guess if it was a 14-year-old boy, it's not necessarily called pedophile, but they were forced into sexual servitude for the pleasure of George H.W. Bush. And if anybody right now is thinking I'm nuts, I would recommend that they put this in a search engine. The White House, 1989, male prostitutes. It should come up. And there was 2 states that were sending young males to Washington, D.C. to service queer. Not very sensitive, am I? Yeah, I am. I'm sensitive to the children. These people like Mike Pence, George H.W. Bush, Barney Frank, the Clintons, Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, and my sister, Christine Marcy. If it were up to me, they would have already been dealt with. But if it's up to God, and it is up to God, these children going forward need to be protected, and they will be. But we can't bring the ones that have already back, the ones that have been already victimized and traumatized, or the organ harvested remains. Yeah. We can't bring those back. But if people would just, if you're a man in America and your testicles have not yet descended, well, then this would be a good time to descend them, because we are in the epic battle of good versus evil, and you can't sit on the sidelines.
Right on. See, Buttercup and I are so totally in on this thing. There is no other thing to do than to do this. I think it's our responsibility, actually, to jump in with both feet and just do it all the way till God takes you home. That's pretty much the drill. So
I love the idea of God taking me home, because as I understand it, I could be wrong, but I think everybody goes to heaven. But I think there's an interview when you get there, and he looks in a book and he says, you know, I see this, this, and this, and so I think I'm going to send you to the other location. And then for people that are doing his work and serving his purpose and his will in this world, I think God is going to say to the men, let me think about this. He might say, no, I could do women too. I think that God is basically going to say, well done. There's a great Johnny Cash song about he'll understand and say, well done. I don't want anybody to think I enjoy what I've been doing for 12 and a half years, but to put this in perspective that anyone can understand, I'm going to give a couple of conditions. Number one, if you believe in God, yes or no, and God asked you to do something for him and his people and his children, would you do it? Confident that God wouldn't ask you to do it if he couldn't get you through it? Or would you say, no, I think I'll leave that to Good Dog, Abel Danger, and the Children's Crusade? It's an individual commitment. It's not a group effort. This is not World War II with the Allies and the Axis. This is a personal decision. Will you serve God or will you cower?
Amen.
I know the answer. Yeah, I know. It's that easy.
You know what? You bring up a really, really, really good point. First of all, amen. But second of all, and this is really important, in World War II, the lines were clear. The front line was absolutely crystal clear. There was no doubt where it was. There was no doubt that the Nazis were bad guys. And it didn't take rocket scientists, literally, and funny. But it didn't take that to figure it out. Now, the way that it's worked out, the enemy's all amongst us. I mean, seriously, it's thick and thin, they're all over the place. In fact, if you stand up and say, or even wear a hat that's the wrong color, or perhaps says the wrong thing, that can actually end your life. And so I would say that if there's a single American left who hasn't made the decision that this is a battle of good and evil, I'm sorry, you're missing something. You really need to go get a cup of coffee and start looking at what's going on, because there's not going to be, this is it. This is the chance to make your choice. And there's not going to be another. Period.
Yeah, I think for those people, and here at this point, there's going to be some of your listeners that think I'm going off the deep end. No, I'm not. But if I were to go off the deep end, I wouldn't drown. Right. But we all have a decision to make. Are we going to serve God? Because if you're not serving God, by default, you're serving Satan, because you're letting him put fear in your heart to stand up on your own two little shaking legs and say, I will not kneel. I will stand. And if you want me on the ground, put me on the ground. But remember that what comes around goes around, and you might be the one on the ground. And in Psalm 91, 11 to 14, there is biblical history of what I just said. It says, and I don't have it in front of me. I have a Bible. But
I can recite it for you by memory.
Oh, good. Let's go. Psalm 91, 11 to 14.
Okay. I'm just going to start from the beginning. We who dwell in the secret place of the Most High shall remain stable and fixed under the shadow of the Almighty, whose power no foe can withstand. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. On Him I lean and rely, and in whom I confidently trust. For then He'll deliver us from the snare of the wicked and from the deadly pestilence. Then He'll cover us with His pinions, and under His wings shall we trust and find refuge. His truth and His faithfulness are our shield and buckler. We shall not be afraid of the terror of the night, nor of the arrow, the evil plots and slanders of the wicked that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that stalks in darkness, nor of the destruction and sudden death that surprises and lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at our side, and 10,000 at our right hand, but it shall not come near us. Only as spectators shall we be, ourselves inaccessible in the secret place of the Most High, as we witness the reward of the wicked. Because we have made the Lord our refuge, and the Most High our dwelling place, there shall no evil befall us, nor any plague or calamity come near our tent. For He will give His angels a special charge over us, to accompany, defend, and preserve us in all of our ways of obedience and service. They shall bear us up on their hands, lest we dash our foot against a stone. We shall tread upon the lion and the adder, and the young lion and the serpent shall we trample underfoot. Because He has set His love upon me, therefore will I deliver Him. I will set Him on high, because He knows and understands my name, has a personal knowledge of my mercy, love, and kindness. Trusts and relies in me, knowing I will never forsake him. No, never. He shall call upon me, and I'll answer him. I'll be with him in trouble. I'll deliver him and honor him. With long life will I show him my mercy and satisfy him. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Yeah, in Jesus' mighty, perfect, and without stain, with His name, that is all of those things. Amen. And I want to give you a double portion for my wife. Amen from my wife, Denise.
Amen to that. You know, There's a friend of mine, her Pazzo girl. She's out in the YouTube chat tonight. Her Twitter was taken down today because she posted a psalm. She posted a psalm and is taken down. Account suspended. Now, this is a corporation, is an international corporation that basically has stood in the way and become a communications vehicle or utility in the United States. A monopoly at that. And we have them censoring Americans. Where are the first Marines?
What did you just say?
Where are the first Marines?
Is that a academic question for where the 1st Marine Division is right now, or just where the Marines are?
Where are the Marines? Let's get them to knock the door down. Let's take this thing over.
We are. I want to challenge your listeners, and maybe you. If Buttercup is there and she can Google this, I would recommend that Buttercup Googles Trump, Putin, peace, P-E-A-C-E, and fourth, that's a 4 with a T-H, 4th Marine. And if you want to find out where the Marines are, they're everywhere and they're nowhere. The Marines are not going undercover, but the enemies of the Marines are going underground. I do not mean they're hiding. I mean they will be killed. They will be killed because they are serving Satan, and the Marine Corps won't do the killing. God is more than capable of killing them anytime he wants, and there's nothing that Satan can do other than to continue to lie. He is the father of all lies, and there's certain nations that believe that they can win wars by deception. Not anymore. And the Marines are represented loud and clear. I think there's plenty of your listeners. I know that there's almost all of my listeners that know that I've sent 350 plus daily briefings to President Trump through a Marine Corps cutout. And does he respond to me? Well, let me ask you this. If you were a legitimate good guy, would you respond to me? The answer is no, because I'm toxic. Well, you yourself know that I'm sort of uncontrollable or unpredictable.
I think that's the most awesome part, because you just don't know where the conversation's going to go. And I think that's as much an adventure as anything.
Yeah, and take a look at all these people that are talking heads on TV. They've got a script. They've got a teleprompter. All I have is Jesus. And guess what? That's all I need. So come and get it. Just today, I had a process server take a legal response to a bank and to a court that are trying to foreclose on my property, not because I haven't paid, but because they don't like my mouth. I've got 2 words for them, but everybody can read between the lines. The second word is you, Y-O-U. I'm not backing down from anybody. I'm not backing down from a district court in Wisconsin. I'm not backing down from the governor of Wisconsin, a senator in Wisconsin who claims he's a whistleblower advocate. No, he's not. These people in Congress and Senate that say they're whistleblower advocates, no, they're not. Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, Chuck Grassley from Iowa, all the rest of them, they are just trying to find out which whistleblowers are a risk to their treasons and their pedophilia, and they try to silence us. And they try to silence us with illegal treatment in a court. I want to say something that might scare some people that think that a district court can slow me down. A district court cannot handle, I want to be corrected immediately by you, Good Dog, or Buttercup, or anybody in the chat room, if I'm wrong with this statement. A district court in any of the 50 states cannot hear a RICO case. It's got to be a federal court.
Yeah.
And the people that are trying to rain on my parade, I actually have it up right now. I think I could rattle them off. In fact, yes, I can. Please pardon this. I want all these people to be afraid, very, very afraid. On the 25th of July of 2018, I wrote a letter to President Trump, and it got there. And it was from Field McConnell, USMC 0116513. Okay, there's a reason why I do all this weird stuff. That tells his other Marines that I'm senior to them. 0116513 tells General Joseph Dunford, who is a hero to me, to Mad Dog Mattis, who is certainly very well known.
Yeah.
And I think in a good way, you know, Marines don't exist to enter into diplomacy. Here's the diplomacy from a Marine perspective. And I was commissioned in the Marine Corps before Dunford, Mattis, or John Kelly, all three of whom I respect. No, here's the deal with a Marine. You do it my way or you're dead. And that's not a political statement. That's not a macho statement. As a Marine officer, or even more importantly, as a Marine enlisted person, if you've been given a legitimate order to hold some property, to hold some ground, to keep the enemy on their side of the line, you're going to do it, and you're willing to end their life if you have to. But more importantly, you're willing to give up your life for what you believed before this very moment in time. The Marine Corps, the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, and the Air Force, all of those people, but I favor the enlisted people because I find so much treason within the officer ranks. But all of these people, including myself, my 30-year Air Force father, and my World War II Army nurse mother, we all thought we were serving the United States of America. We all three were wrong. My father, my mother, and myself. But let me read the letter, and I promise not to take much time. I've already given the code so the Marines will know I'm senior to them by date of commission. And the letter went to President Donald J. Trump, care of, in fact, now you can see who I was trying to use as a cutout, but let's keep right on going in truth. Care of General John Kelly, White House Chief of Staff, Headquarters, U.S. Marine Corps, 3000 Marine Corps, that's an address in the Pentagon, Washington, D.C., 20350-3000. And then here comes now I'm going to list everybody in the RICO enterprise that's trying to shut me up. And you can tell they haven't achieved their goal yet, right? Am I quiet? No, you know, once again, I blank them. Here's the carbon copies, and this exposes the RICO enterprise. Wamandi State Bank CEO, that's a local bank 12 miles from me. Rodley, Besker, Bowles, and Kruger. That is a really compromised law firm over in, I've got it, River Falls, Wisconsin. Okay, then we get better. Wisconsin Secretary of State, he's involved. Wisconsin Department of Revenue, they're heavily involved. U.S. Marshals, Madison, Wisconsin, they are not involved, but they need to be made aware of what's going on with me. The Pierce County Sheriff in Wisconsin, okay, I live in Pierce County, and the Sheriff's Department is well aware of me, and they know what team I'm on. I'm on the good team. Delta Airlines CEO. Now, why is that in there? Because I retired from Delta Airlines after a 29-year career well, it shows up on paper as being flawless, and that's only because I'm a good gamesman. I can get the job done without leaving tracks. I know all the regulations, and I haven't flown for the United States Airlines since they tried to shut me up over 9/11. And so what I did was when they played hardball with me, I took the bat and I shoved it up where it's not comfortable for them. And I retired in a 10-minute. See, there's a protocol to shut up loyal American airline pilots who try to expose safety infrastructures. And what better time, honestly, good dog, what better time to talk about that than right now today? Because when Lion Air 610 went down, followed probably 5 or 7 months later by Ethiopia 302 going down, everybody in the world started bad-mouthing Boeing. And they specifically bad-mouthed a part of the Boeing 737 MAX called the MCAS. Now there's 400 airline pilots that are going after Boeing over that issue. And to make it really simple and not airline talk, the real issue is Boeing never told the pilots, the airline companies, the mechanics, or the dispatchers about the MCAS.
So how would a pilot who doesn't know that that is in place? How would they know what the procedure is when things go south?
They cannot know. And now, are you ready to extrapolate this 100-fold?
Sure.
Yeah, Boeing's got a history of not telling the pilots, not telling the dispatchers, not telling the mechanics, and not telling the airlines themselves. But here is where we extrapolated 100 or 1,000-fold. The issue that I brought up about 9/11 was a simple technology called the Boeing Uninterruptible Autopilot. I brought that up on December 10th of 2006, and by early in January, Northwest Airlines, which became Delta, was my employer for 29 years. As a courtesy to them, I told them first, but I also told the FAA, the Airline Pilots Association, and Navy Intelligence. And I told them there's some hardware in these Boeing aircraft, and so I can't fly them. And it's easy to find the history on me and that, and I'm not promoting myself. If anybody thinks I'm self-promoting, they might as well just turn this off now and go watch The Simpsons. I'm promoting the safety of the traveling public globally. Every airplane out there today that is, it's got a glass cockpit, it's got a flight guidance system or a flight management system, and that's everybody. They are all drones in waiting. And also FADEC, it's full authority digital engine control. Let me ask you an academic question you and I have never talked about, or if you think we have, Buttercup can answer it because I know I've never talked to her about this. Let's just look at simple English. If the aircraft itself has FADEC, full authority digital engine control, just academically, how much control could the captain or the co-pilot have if the aircraft has full authority? Go ahead.
Well, if he parachuted out of the plane and jumped into where they're controlling it remotely, he might have some. But if he's in the plane and they've got full, that means he's got zero.
Exactly right. And that's the issue. You can watch as Boeing and all these phony baloney attorneys that are lining up to pester Boeing, none of them are going to talk about the real problem, which is the Boeing Uninterruptible Autopilot that I exposed back in December 10th of 2006. And my reward for exposing that, initially Northwest said, we really appreciate what you've told us. And because you're on a medical leave for a hernia and you're supposed to go back to work and fly the Boeing 747 on the 18th of December, the 18th of December of 2006, we think you're doing a much greater service to Northwest Airlines, which is now Delta, to stay out there and continue to bring an issue to this so that all of our aircraft can be operated more safely. That's what my employer said, and that's what my employer did. They kept me on full pay. What did the government do? Well, the United States Department of Justice picked up the phone and called NWA, which is now Delta, and said, do you have a pilot employee named Field McConnell? And they said, yes. And they said to Northwest, you find some way to shut his mouth or you will never have any more new route authority to the Orient. So what does Northwest have to do for the corporation and the investors? They have to look like they're trying to shut me up, which they were. But, some of us just aren't going to play their games. If they want to throw 3 strikes before they get the first pitch out of the pitcher's hand, they're going to have a bat stuck up where it's very uncomfortable. Because my obligation is first and foremost to God, secondly, to my family and my wife, and very close behind that, the safety of the traveling public. I don't care if it's an Indonesian airline. I don't care if it's an African airline. All people are creatures of God. We're creations of God, and man and corporations should not be randomly killing us because they can. And this brings up George H.W. Bush and Hillary, but let's not digress. Let me get back to reading who was addressed when I exposed the RICO. USAA Bank CEO. USAA is supposedly one of the best banks and insurance companies in the United States of America. I don't want to drag them through the mud, but I can tell you, no, they're not. Okay, the clerk of court, Pierce County, Wisconsin, a corporation in New Jersey named National Financial Services, LLC, the CEO there, Office of Lawyer Regulation, Wisconsin, First Bank of Baldwin, CEO, Baldwin, Wisconsin. Here's my letter to Trump. Dear President Trump, when you spoke to the Pope in New York City in May of 2017, you stressed peace, accountability, prosperity, sovereignty, and whistleblower protection. On 30 January 2018, at the State of the Union address, you mentioned the first four, but not whistleblower protection. My hope as a 26-year veteran, and sidebar, I was in the Navy at the Naval Academy. I was an officer in the Marine Corps, and then I transferred to the Air Force where I finished out my 26 years. My hope as a 26-year veteran is that your commitment to whistleblowers remains firm, and I believe that that is the case. Pursuant to that, I bring your attention to the treatment I have received in Wisconsin as I have exposed treason, international child trafficking, and serial frauds by corporations posing as offices of the United States of America, which they are not. On 23 August 2016, I filed an affidavit with Pierce County Court, Wisconsin, and I attached it as item 1, informing them I am a living man and not a corporation. That was 10 months after I'd informed the same office that I was a lien claimant on SEC tracer number 2640220, which prohibited any of these corporate actors from contacting me as Field McConnell, all capital letters, which is known as Glossa, and that is not my name. On Friday, the 13th of July of 2018, 2 actions took place which are of great pleasure to me personally. You, President Trump, and we're talking about July of 2018, not 2019. We haven't gotten there yet. You, President Trump, met with Queen Elizabeth II and did not bow or follow. My wife, Denise Irene Clark McConnell, received her visa to re-enter the United States after a 19-month unlawful separation, which will be reviewed in equity court in Wisconsin, where a $2.6 billion demand will be presented in accordance with common law and biblical law. We, man and wife, were separated unlawfully for 578 days, and this is a violation of numerous laws, including codicils of the Charter of the United Nations. It has been my experience since November 10, 2015, to be unlawfully injured by the Pierce County Court in Ellsworth, Wisconsin, where on 21 August 2014, I testified as an impaneled jury member under oath to the Global Pedophile Network, which at that time was controlled by Hillary Clinton and my sister, Christine Marcy. I had previously, on 29 July 2015, reported this same sister of mine, Christine Marcy, was engaged in serial treasons against the United States of America. These claims have been recorded in numerous affidavits signed by me. Those affidavits were delivered to the Pierce County Clerk of Court and should all be in the case records of Pierce County Case 15 FA 178. It appears that the court has not shared those charges made by me with higher authority, which constitutes misprision of felony treason as well as pedophilia. Let me spell misprision because most people in America don't know what it is. MISPRISION. What that means is if someone like me reports felony treason or pedophilia, whoever takes that report is obligated by law, 18 U.S. Code 2382, to pass it up the food chain. Well, nobody in Wisconsin passed it up the food chain, so they're all guilty. Now, have they been adjudicated? Absolutely not. But I digress. Let me get back to the letter and we'll be done soon. I am concerned that the court to which I reported the treason and pedophilia crimes has a gold fringe flag in the courtroom where I testified as a sworn and impaneled jury member, when in response to the question from the judge, I testified that my sister Christine Marcy and Hillary Clinton operated the largest net-centric pedophile fulfillment service in the world. Oh, that's let me think of that dog's name. I forgot. But anyway, she doesn't like me talking. I think the dog wants to attack my sister and Hillary over pedophilia.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah, and her name's Pipsqueak. Pedophile is the global, and Pizzagate is the domestic networks. My sister, yuck, I'd hate to be married to a witch like that. My sister and Hillary, there's another one I wouldn't want to be married to. Anyway, the judge covered his ears and said, quote, "Too much information, you are excused." Now on 25 July 2018, I wish to point out a group of corporations have conspired and tried to remove my property from me in a fraudulent manner. The most egregious violators of my rights are the Wamedy State Bank of Wamedy, Wisconsin, the Rodley, Besker, Bowles, and Kruger Law Firm of River Falls, Wisconsin, Delta Airlines of Atlanta, Georgia, and the USA Bank of San Antonio, Texas. I have previously reported their unlawful acts to all parties, including those listed in the carbon copy. To this date, none have offered reparations or remedies, and all have been operating across state lines via electronic means and U.S. Postal Service. Now I'm going to explain that. That means they're guilty of RICO, and that means if they're proven guilty in a court, whatever penalty they would normally have to pay, it would be triple. And under Christian law, it would be times 7. But I don't expect anybody working in the legal industry to be a Christian, because you can't serve two masters. Okay, I am to present a check for $17 million to the United States Marine Corps Scholarship Fund in Washington, D.C. on 1 August 2018. And for any parties who have unwittingly injured me, I will accept remedy before that date, assuming your corporation was unwitting. For any corporations listed that do not provide remedy by 1 August 2018, I will conclude that you are willing participants in these frauds, and RICO trebling means triple, will apply to any remedies provided pre-trial. There is a case of whistleblowing pilot that has just been remedied with a multi-billion-dollar award. I'm reading this, and it's great big, so it's not that I can't read it. I can read it very well. That case is known to US DOJ, FAA, and FBI, as well as previous administrations who had suppressed and delayed it. Those previous administrations, by the way, were George W. Bush and Obama. Of course, Obama is not his real name. That's what he thinks. We believe that. Of course, he's got his head up and locked also. Regarding Wisconsin Department of Revenue and National Financial Service, LLC, I would like both of your offices to explain to me on what you based your levy claim of $83,423.11, as I am not subject to IRS taxation as of the 26th of May of 2015, and your fraudulent levy is dated 25 August 2016. It is my belief that the Wisconsin Franchise Office of the IRS, which is a private corporation headquartered in Guaynabo City, Puerto Rico, bases their tax calculations on federal taxes due, and I revoked my election to pay voluntary federal taxes on 22 May 2015, which is proven in a YouTube. I'm going to say this very slowly. There's a YouTube titled that's TO, to IRS : notice and demand to validate debt claim Field McConnell. People, it's not that long. You can, man, I wouldn't recommend anybody tries to follow on my track, because Donald Trump has already effectively shut down the IRS, and they're going to continue the name. But going forward, and I think he'll announce this very soon, going forward, they are only collecting taxes via a fixed rate on purchases of new products. Then I sign my name and my address, and then I give the names and addresses of all these players in the enterprise, the RICO enterprise, trying to destroy me. Well, they haven't destroyed me yet. They never will, because I work for God. He'll protect me, and the only way that he would call me home early is if he knew that they were going to try something stupid. He might call me home early so I can, get my reward. But as of right now, I don't want a reward, because I want to live and serve God, and I want to protect and honor my wife and my 5 children and my 9 grandchildren. So here's the wrap up. President Trump promised to make honoring our veterans one of the top priorities of his administration. Part of that promise means restoring American patriotism. Quotes, We don't apologize for America anymore. We stand up for America, the president told the Veterans of Foreign Wars National yesterday in Missouri. And we stand up for our national anthem, the president said to a thundering ovation. Another part of that promise is making sure our veterans receive the best health care in the world. That begins by holding the VA system accountable for misconduct and poor performance. Last June, President Trump signed the VA Accountability and Whistleblower Protection Act into law, making it easier to discipline bad actors, including senior executives. That's the end of my letter. How about if I send you that letter, and you may wish to post it somewhere? You may wish to.
Well, no. Let's be clear how we're going to handle it. I got the answer for it. Yeah, we've got a spot we're building for you on our site.
Okay.
And all things Field McConnell will show up on your page, including this letter. Now, I love the work that you're doing. I think it's fantastic. I think your memory is amazing. Somebody said a little while ago, and I don't want to miss what they said because it went by pretty quick on the chat. They wanted to have you comment on Merkel shaking as if she's got Parkinson's, but it's not. It's probably some other thing related to her diet. And there was another comment I wanted to make to you, and it had to do with Q Post 14 on what you're talking about. Q Post 14 said a lot of things. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to read you 2 sentences out of it. And then I'm going to make a comment about your earlier comment, which was my second item to read through, which was the 4th of July comment and doing away with the Fed and possibly even realizing Q 2619, which is the reinstatement of the gold standard. But it says in Q 14, line item 3, it says, what is state secrets and how upheld in the Supreme Court? Okay, that's one question. The next question is, what must be completed to engage military intelligence over other 3-letter agencies? What must occur to allow for civilian trials? Why is this relevant? So, all of that is that the system is completely broken, and what must occur is it must be proven to the American people. They must see that it is broken. They must recognize, and it must be absolutely clear. I don't know. I think the last 2.5 years of President Trump's administration are completely perfect enough information for me to say that the system is utterly broken. In fact, it is totally compromised and not possible of being saved if the people that are in charge are allowed to do it. And I mean specifically the Democrats and the rhinos in Congress that are basically, as we're going to prove in the case of Biden and his son and the rest of these guys, it appears that they are completely compromised by the Chinese Communist People's Liberation Army and the $30 billion that they received from them. And we're going to be able to document every penny of that. That's where it's going. And so I'm not sure I totally subscribe to the notion that China's on the right side. I don't think that they want to be controlled by the cabal or become food for the Luciferians. I don't think that's the case. But at the same time, I don't see evidence that they're pulling back from the brink. In fact, I see them trying to profiteer in a situation that is compromised where they can. And so that just seems like a situation where they are not yet on the team. I don't think they realize this is an existential threat for every human, period, full stop.
I agree.
So what do you think about the questions brought up in Q14, essentially saying that we've got to act before we can engage military intelligence and military justice? We're going to have to prove that there is a problem here. And it's got to be done in a very demonstrable way, which I think has now been achieved.
Okay, well, before I answer that, I want to talk about Merkin. And before I answer that, I don't have very good hearing because I've spent my lifetime around jet engines and large guns. Did you say, when you were talking about the people that are committing treason in Washington, did you say rhinos or winos?
Yes.
It's pretty much the same, isn't it?
Is there a difference?
No, none. Because they're so ashamed of themselves. If they're not overdoing alcohol, and you can see that in their faces, take a look at Mitch McConnell's face. Yeah. You can't grow all that face fat on food alone.
You know, let me say something. This will resonate with you. I'm sure this will, because it's true. We have all these problems, and it isn't because we aren't tolerant. It is because we've allowed iniquity and those that are compromised with iniquity to ensconce themselves in places of power. And because of that, we've got all of this chaos and all of this hate and all of this angst and Luciferianism running rampant around the world, really. And
yes, and that's coming to a screaming halt here very soon. Sometime after the 4th of July, I would invite you to have me on again, and you can just rip me a new one if everything I've said has proven to be false. And you don't have to say anything nice if most of what I said is proven to be true, because it's not a matter of me or intelligence or Marines or the Department of Defense. What's going to happen is going to happen because of God and God alone. And I'm just happy to be on his team. You also mentioned Merkin. Can I address that?
Yeah, sure.
First of all, whenever I talk about her, see, there's no defense against sarcasm. So when I talk about her, I always refer to her as Merkin, M-E-R-K-I-N. Now, don't answer me. Don't tell me if you know what a Merkin is. I mean, don't describe it or define it, but do you know what a Merkin is?
No.
Okay, well, you're going to laugh your rear end off when you find out. But
I'm looking it up now, though.
Okay, look it up, but don't read it out. I don't want to offend your audience.
That's a thing? Seriously?
No. In the sailing ships, whether it was the Royal Navy or English commercial vessels, when they'd go out on a 6-month cruise, you don't get me started on this, but have you ever heard of the term peg boy? P-E-G boy, peg boy.
Now I'm really afraid to even answer.
No. But, this is what's wrong with the education system in America. We have been dumbed down. And if people understood peg boy and Merkin, it's true history. I'm not going to go where what the peg boys were, other than to say on sailing ships they were male prostitutes. That's right. As far as I'm going. It's just too disgusting. But as far as Merkins go, the heterosexual sailors don't really enjoy being stuck on a ship with nothing but men and peg boys. And as soon as they get into a port, the first thing they do, I think most of them, would be go to a lounge or a bar or a pub and then try to be introduced to a heterosexual female. Now, if the heterosexual females had some type of an STD, they would have to mask that. I think it was silver or mercury, but there was a liquid mineral or chemical or whatever you want to call it that they would apply to certain regions of their anatomy, which would cause there to be less follicles. I'm trying to be as sensitive as I can.
I get it. I know what you're talking about. I think you're over the target, so to speak.
Oh boy, am I. And but as far as I call her, there's 4 people that I have targeted. 4, they're not world leaders, they're world misleaders. And the first one's gone. I called, what's her name? Theresa May. I called her Cucumber Girl, which totally humiliated her. And also she's gone. The other ones I've targeted are Merkin. And then the guy from France, that little short guy.
Yeah.
Macron.
Yeah.
I call him Macaroni Man because, in fact, I had macaroni salad for lunch. And my macaroni salad has more impact than that guy who's just a pawn of the Rothschild banking family in France. Another target of mine is Angela Merkel. That's why I call her Merkel instead of Merkel. And she was shaking the other day for one of 2 reasons, if not both. She was being targeted with microwave energy. And when she'd be targeted, she'd shake. But also, if she's like a lot of these world leaders, she's drinking the pineal gland of a young child. If you can harvest that stuff and drink it, these enemies of God think that they'll be young forever. And that's why they love to kill children. And in Europe, in England and Belgium and Holland, they have hunts, Hunts, where a bunch of perverts chase a bunch of adolescent or pre-adolescents, say 10 to 14-year-old children, and they chase them down, and then they ultimately kill them because they have to kill them to harvest their blood. And adrenochrome, I hope I said that right. Somebody in all the chat rooms, there's a lot of really smart people listening right now. But when a child is terrified, they have adrenaline pumping through their system, and it turns their blood into adrenochrome, whatever it is. And then the people like Joe Biden, the Clintons, my sister, they think if you drink that freshly harvested blood of a dead child, you will live forever. I got news for my sister, Christine, if she's still alive, or Hillary, if she's still alive. You're not living forever. In fact, you're not living much longer if you're alive now. But the fourth person that I'm trying to eliminate, and I think this one may go next, is Justin Trudeau.
I was going to ask you about him. There you go.
Well, do you know who his father was?
From the look of the guy, I would have to say, I wanted to say he looked more like a Maurice Strong. He looked like Maurice Strong to me.
Well, he's a dead ringer for Fidel Castro. Do you know who the only head of state was that showed up for Pierre Trudeau's funeral?
No.
Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro is Justin Trudeau's biological donor of a heavenly bodily essence. And his mother was a known, well, I've got so many words for her, but she was a loose woman.
You just quoted Dr. Strangelove. Are you even aware you just quoted Dr. Strangelove?
Yes, I am. The general that was under a lot of, he said, well,
Jack D. Ripper.
Yeah, Jack D. Ripper. Are you familiar with some of the other characters in that movie?
Oh, yeah. That movie is a classic, man. That's an awesome one.
Do you know why that movie was delayed 3 months? It was supposed to be out in, I think it was supposed to be out in late November or early December of 1963. Focus on 1963. Now, yeah. Can you guess why that movie was released late?
Yeah, of course, because George Bush had to get away with it.
George H.W. Bush?
Yeah, I didn't say the full name, but yeah, you might have.
Oh yeah, I did. I say it because I've been very, very explicit. In fact, how explicit? Well, I drove my 1996 Cadillac hearse over today to have my my legal answer to some RICO criminals. If they saw me driving through town, I wanted them to see my hearse on the side of the windows, and maybe somebody in all the chat rooms can pull up a picture. And if you want to go to a search engine and put in my name, Field McConnell, hearse, and Obama or G.H.W. Bush, it would come up. It's a beautiful car. It's a 96 with only 23,000 miles. I drove it over to where I handed them legal paperwork today. And my wife, Denise, who's a Brit, drove it for the first time ever. It's not that I don't allow her to drive. I want her to drive. I don't like to drive. My mind is so active, I shouldn't be driving.
Then let me give you something to think about. This is really, really interesting. And you mentioned Hillary, and people in chat are writing about Ireland, so I'm going to put the two together. And this is a little bit of homework. I'm almost sure, well, you might actually know. Have you ever heard of a company called Axios?
How do you spell it?
Axios. Axios.
No, I have not.
Okay. That'll be a little fun homework for you. Find out who they are. Hey, by the way, find out on their executive staff who worked at the Rose Law Firm. Oh, and where does he live today? Oh, and here's another one. These are just little challenges. You'll be able to play these back and look it up later. So I have it in show notes for those that are interested. Let's see. Where were their machines set up? Where exactly? And what did they communicate to in the United States, specifically in Broward County? When? And what is the USS Jimmy Carter got to do with all this?
Is there a ship named the USS Jimmy Carter?
It's a nuclear submarine.
I didn't know that.
It also has.
He was a nuclear submarine driver, but he was also a draft dodger. Have you ever heard that before?
I've heard that. But how could he be? Because he was wasn't he military himself? I mean, how could he have been a draft dodger?
Just like Alexander Haig. Are you ready for this?
Now you're blowing me away. Go ahead.
That's what my job is, to blow people away with the truth that they can look up and prove that I'm not making this up. It's true. Alexander Haig, who's a traitor, was in the West Point class of 1947. So if I told you that I was in the Annapolis class of 71, and you know it's a 4-year program, what year would I have gone to Annapolis to graduate in 71?
That would be 1967.
Exactly. Okay.
That was the same year that the mule's best friend died, at, quote unquote, in Vietnam. Or maybe it was him.
Well, Mueller in Vietnam was running a black market. So let's not, Mueller's chump change. He's not worthy of comment. But Alexander Haig and Jimmy Carter were both draft dodgers. They both entered service academies. Alex Haig went to West Point in 43, and Jimmy Carter went to Annapolis, where I graduated from, and McCain did. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, or in this case, 2 out of 3 are bad. I take great personal shame that I graduated from the same school as John McCain and Jimmy Carter. But anyway, here's their strategy. They knew that they were going to be in the service real quick, and they didn't want to be. So they both went to service academies thinking that that would keep them safe for 4 years if they were hiding out at West Point or Annapolis. Well, not exactly, because the needs of the service were such that both West Point and Annapolis graduated the class of 47 1 year early in 46. But Alexander Haig went on to a great long career of disservice to the United States, and so did Jimmy Carter. And Jimmy Carter yesterday, or maybe today, he was very critical of Trump. Well, I'm one of Trump's Marines. In fact, I'm Trump's 4th Marine. His first 3 are in plain sight. Dunford, who's brilliant, and I believe he saved our country. And I believe that when everybody applauds Trump on the 4th of July, they should really be applauding Joseph Dunford. He's the Marine behind Trump. But then there's John Kelly, who is the Chief of Staff. There's James Mattis, called Mad Dog, who is the Secretary of Defense. And I sort of work in very confusing ways, but if anybody were to Google Trump, 4th Marine, Putin, and peace, my name would come up, because I'm sort of a rogue warrior, but I'm a good rogue warrior. I'm not paid by anybody. I'm not given orders by anybody. And as you've alluded to twice today, good dog, trying to give me an order, you might as well try to pee up a rope. It ain't gonna work. I'm working for God, and God has total confidence in me, and I have 1,000% confidence and dedication to him, so much so that if I were to be penalized for saying that Mike Pence is both a pedophile and a child murderer, hey, bring it on. But you're going to have to kill Timothy C. Holmseth. Timothy Charles Holmseth is considered an enemy of Mike Pence. The last enemy of Mike Pence was a man named Torrey Smith, Torrie, who did a couple of YouTubes saying Mike Pence and his wife are both pedophiles and child murderers. Now, some people say, hey, Field, you should be careful with your mouth or you might be dead. Well, that's not much of a risk. I'm going to be dead anyway, because that's what happened. We're born, we live, and we die. That's not important. When we die, do we go to heaven for serving Christ, or do we go to hell for serving Satan? I know where I'm going. I don't know when I'm leaving, but I know who bought the ticket, and it's first class. And until then, people like Mike Pence, Warren Buffett, oh, I never finished that thought. Warren Buffett was involved in sending adolescents to the White House, and people can Google White House male prostitutes 1989. It's true. It was on the front page of the paper in Washington, D.C.
No. That part I get, and I'm all over, and your facts are correct, and I know the facts. Here's something I don't know. I don't know anything about Pence and his interaction, and I like the facts. I like to actually go through and find the evidence, and I'd like to actually compile the evidence. So, for all those that are listening, if you would please go onto the site or onto my Discord and put it into on Discord, put it into Boardwalk, and I will come up with a report. It'll be a 5-minute report on Monday, and I will put out all of the evidence that supports this notion, because I'm unaware of it. And I need to know it. I really need to know. I can't just go with it. When you say something, I read it like crazy. I got a bunch of notes here on stuff I got to go look up, so I'll definitely get it out there. So let's stay on target with that. Now, there's something else that you mentioned too, and it had to do with the Federal Reserve System itself. I think there was a reference to gold, and I looked up in the Q. There's one Q that actually talks about gold and the gold-backed system, and it's Q 2619, and it was one of the open Q&A periods of the Q last December. And somebody asked Q, "Hey Q, what's the deal with the Federal Reserve? Aren't we all bankrupt?" And the Q said, the gold system is going to replace it. He said exactly. Let me quote it. 1 second. One little second. Oops, I was on the other one. Gold. Boink. 1 second here. Why is it giving me the wrong answer?
Trump is going to be announcing this on the 4th of July regarding the gold back.
Do you think so? That's what I wanted to ask you.
Well, go ahead and ask me. I'll pretend like this isn't something we've talked about.
Okay, so because it isn't.
I know it isn't.
Q Post 2619 says, question, do we have the gold? And this is a reference to, I forget how many tons, but it's thousands of tons of gold. And Q says, yes, gold shall destroy Fed, F-E-D, all in caps, Q. So say what you just said again.
Yeah, the Fed, well, what I said again was that Trump will be announcing our gold-backed currency and coins on the 4th of July. He's going to be announcing some things also. He's got way too much to announce in a 1 or 2 hour briefing, but basically the quantum financial system, that's QFS. Let me stop there. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Okay, that's what you need to talk about on Monday, because Trump is going to explain that on Thursday, which is the 4th of July. The entire world economy is being inverted from bad to good. And the new way of handling money is every nation that wants to get better, and that's the vast majority of the nations, will be doing their own currency. Very good, very public example of that is what Zimbabwe has been doing over the last 3 or 4 days. They are not going to take any foreign currency. They're not going to take the petrodollars of the U.S. or the French or the Russians or the Indians. The only currency to be used in Zimbabwe is going to be the Zimbabwe dollars. Now, a lot of people out there who are still cynical and poorly educated are going to say, who gives a rat's rear end about Zimbabwe? Well, God did. God put more gold underground in Zimbabwe more than any other nation on earth. Now, the question for people that doubt what I'm saying is, and I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you, and don't feel bad if you can't get it. I mean, you don't just grow this information in 2 or 3 years. Do you have any idea of all the nations in the world, if Zimbabwe has the most gold underground, would you have a guess? I know what I'd guess, and I'd be wrong. But do you have a guess as to what nation has the second most gold?
Second most gold had to be the United States.
You're absolutely right. I'm so proud of you for getting that. I wouldn't have guessed it. I would have guessed something like Afghanistan.
Oh, no, no, no. Field, check this out. This is the most amazing thing. I did a whole series last summer. It took me a month to get through it. And we were going through all of the reasons why the globalists were picking on the American Southwest. And when I started the whole investigation out, I had no idea why. I mean, I was just naturally curious. Yep. And as it turns out, because that's where all the money is.
Yep. Yep.
You know, it's like, and it's quadrillions of dollars. It's not a little amount. It's a ridiculous amount of money. And so, you know, the whole reason why this border issue is going on, the whole reason that, you know, Mexico is helping Germany out by allowing this inbound invasion army, and they're conspiring under the Zimmerman telegram and all the rest of that. The reason all that's happening is because these guys want the United States destabilized. They want it falling apart. They want the whole thing just to come crashing down on Trump's head. And I got news for him. No chance. Zero chance.
Yeah. I have news for him too. I'm not as eloquent as you. But don't break this code. But my response to him would be FFC, or Foxtrot Charlie. There's no chance. Listen, God hasn't given up on the United States of America. He's not going to. The New World Order, of course, G.H.W. Bush was all over that, but he failed, didn't he? Yeah. In fact, he got executed. Most of your people aren't going to believe what I said. G.H.W. Bush was executed. John McCain was executed.
It seems indicated with Maggie Haberman's comment about the dog. You know, I don't know if you follow her stuff, but she's a signaler. She's just like James Comey and his signaling. And if you learn how to decode what they're saying, they're giving signals back and forth of stuff that's going to be in the news in a couple of weeks. And one of the things that they gave out, I mean, this is recent, is that they were signaling a false flag in California. I don't know if you knew that. The first time I had a problem with Twitter is when I did that decode online. And what's funny is, I mean, my first Twitter account just disappeared, and I was like, wait a minute, that's uncool. I mean, you do this for years, and then suddenly you get a following, and all of it disappears overnight. How uncool is that? But they did that. They didn't want people paying attention to that. And sure enough, that's what they had planned. They found the bombs. They found the people like 3 weeks later, in California. It was in Grass Valley, actually.
Okay.
So anyway, I just I want to come back to this idea in Zimbabwe, and I wanted to give you a historical sweep of something. You see, the globalists under Rhodes, you know, Cecil B. Rhodes, they had targeted the southern part of Africa because they had done their analysis and they had done their surveys and found this is where all the money is.
Yep.
And they had targeted South Africa in general and Rhodesia, I think at the time. And they changed it. They named it after Cecil B. Rhodes, Rhodesia. Yep. And the whole reason the whole genocide happened down there, it wasn't just because black people don't like white people. It was because they incited them to kill all the white people. And that's really what happened down there. It's an example of globalism, what it'll look like here if we don't stop this.
Well, it is going to be stopped. I mean, globalism has been stopped. That's over. And if people don't believe that, that's okay. They will. And they'll probably start believing it on the 4th of July when Trump speaks. But let me go another more sinister way. Do you know what Cecil Rhodes' lifestyle was like?
I know what he had for dinner up at the supper club in London on one night, but I haven't looked at his actual behavior.
He's a homosexual. And when he was in Africa, he would take an adolescent male out to a cliff, you know, in other words, a vertical sheer rock wall, and he would violate them, and then he'd throw them over the cliff. And some of his own people, I'm not going to use any, bad language, but so many of his own people said, Mr. Rhodes, after you're done violating each of these young males that you violate, why do you throw them over the cliff? He said, I don't want to service the same one twice. Can you imagine that type of evil?
Wow. Actually, I can now that I know what he was about.
Yep.
And I understand that that's, the guy who invented concentration camps is none other than Cecil B. Rhodes. The Rhodes Scholarship should be considered, a criminal indictment instead of a good thing.
Yeah, and you just defined, Bill Rockefeller, he's also known as Bill Clinton. He was a Rhodes Scholar, and in our country, that's true. That's true. And he got kicked out of Oxford.
I wasn't actually referring to Bill Clinton when I said that, but it fits.
No, it does fit because, see, he was used, his name is really William Jefferson Rockefeller, but these Rockefellers and another, Obama's related, Hillary's related, Tom Hanks is related. They all try to sort of confuse good people by changing their names from, in the case of Bill Clinton, he changed his name from Rockefeller to Clinton, thinking that that'll fool us. Well, it does fool most people. It doesn't fool all of us people. And for the people that are easily fooled, I've got a guy right now emailing me. He's from Ireland, and he thinks I'm absolutely full of baloney. But I don't even lower myself to communicate back with these people. They're going to find out who's full of baloney, and then they're going to feel terrible. And my heart goes out to them. Nobody that's learning from what we're talking about right now should feel bad that they didn't know it yesterday. The people that are trying to have our souls go to hell, they've been running the world for a long, long time. Well, they're not going to run it much longer. And then going back to Angela Merkel, Macaroni Man, I call him Fidel's bastard because Justin Trudeau is a bastard and his father is Fidel. And then, of course, the one I already got rid of, Cucumber Girl, Theresa May just got ousted. I would like to encourage everyone to search for a picture that just came out today of Theresa May and Vladimir Putin. And Theresa May looks like about a 6'3" spoiled brat because she's a mafia asset. And she was there to screw up England or the United Kingdom. Pardon me. My wife is English, but it's part of the United Kingdom. And see, the United Kingdom has not been in favor of their people. They abuse their own people, just like the United States government since 1871 at the latest, but actually much, much earlier. But let's settle out of court for 1871 with the Organic Act of 1871. The United States government has been harming their own people, hoping that they could swap out populations. That's why Roe v. Wade in 73 was put in. That was to reduce the number of indigenous American procreation. There's other things they've done that are very, very sinister. They've changed what babies drink. In other words, by putting them on certain fake milks as opposed to breast milk, it turns males into, well, if anybody's ever seen The Big Bang Theory and see the star of that, that's what they want to turn us all into, those things. I'm going to give you a series of 5 words, if I can remember them all. But overt, heterosexual, CMAW, C-E-M-A-W, I only can remember 4 of them. Do you know what a sexagenarian is?
Sexagenarian is someone who's 60 years old.
60 to 70. When you get to 70, you're a septuagenarian.
Right.
Well, why do you and I have to explain this to America? Can't we have an education system? The answer to that is no, we can't. But they're trying to destroy American families. I'll say that again. They are trying to destroy American families. And they've succeeded to a very large degree, but not to a critical degree. There's some very heterosexual breeders. I've got 5 kids and I've got 9 grandchildren. And here I am, I'm talking truth to power, but the truth marches on and the power is sinking. And a lot of the power, well, 10,900 plus indictments, 180 Congress people are going to Guantanamo.
Actually, I think the new number came out today. It's 105,000 sealed indictments at this point today.
Well, I've got a source I can put you in touch with after the show. She's a woman in New York City, and she just told me yesterday 10,900. But, you know, my memory's flawed.
Is that just in New York? I would believe that.
Oh, no. 10,900 plus. But, I think what the important part is 180 members of Congress. And when I say that, that's confusing because Congress includes Congress and the Senate. 180 of those aren't going to like President Trump. If they like him now, they're not going to like him after the 4th of July. But, the 4th of July, if this was the last thing I said before I died, I would be a happy person. The 4th of July will be the first day that American citizens are cognizant. Right there, we're losing 90% of the crowd. They don't know what cognizant is. But on the 4th of July, that'll be the first time in a long, long time that people that can listen and have cognitive, well, let's not say dissonance, the exact, if you can understand what's going on the 4th of July, you're going to find out that we are an independent nation for the first time since 1871. And I'm not political. In fact, I don't think Trump's political. I think he's an executive, and I'm a servant of him. But on top of that, I'm a servant of God. And if that offends people, it doesn't bother me, because if you serve God, you will do well. If you serve Satan, you're going to hell. It's that simple. But anyway, I digress. I think we have much, much, much to look forward to next week on Thursday the 4th. And, it's closely guarded secret what's going to happen at Mount Rushmore and what's going to happen at the Lincoln Memorial. I wish I could be at both places, but I'm going to be involved in something that's very, very positive. And I don't think you and I have ever talked about an international network of veterans ranches that are going to be called MVR, McConnell Veterans Ranches. And before you think that's me, no, it's not. It's my parents. My parents set the example. I've tried to live up to my parents. I've tried to live up to people like George S. Patton. I've tried to live up to Smedley Butler, who said war is a racket.
Do you have a link for Patreon or some way to donate? I'd like to put that on your page.
Well, yes, they could. Let me do that via email so it doesn't look like I'm trying to get money.
This is not a Jerry Lewis telethon. I mean, I'm naturally curious, and I support what you're doing. So I think that's, and I think other Americans do too. The ones that are awake, are fully awake here. I think. Yeah,
and the ones that are asleep, don't feel bad and don't think that myself or anybody else is criticizing you. Listen, I'm 69. When I was 57, I was naive enough to think if I told the FAA, the Airline Pilots Association, and the FBI exactly what happened on 9/11, I thought they would say, hey, great job. But guess what? They didn't. They said, basically, you must be nuts. Well, Donald Trump does not think I'm nuts. The three generals I keep mentioning, Dunford, Kelly, and Mattis, they don't think I'm nuts. Now, is that a vague statement by me? No, it is not. On Monday, the 26th of June of 2018, I was vetted by representatives of Trump and those three generals. They wanted to know if I was truly a good guy or somebody that was confusing. And actually, the answer is both. I am a good guy. I look way beyond Trump and the Marines. I'm serving God. Let there be no mistake about that. And if on my own show I use colorful language, well, let me quote a scripture, Isaiah 55:11. And so it is with the words of my mouth, they will not depart from me and return void without accomplishing the purpose for which I sent them. When I rattle off about 17,531.25 F-bombs, I'm telling the deep state that they're in deep, deep doo-doo, and I'm the guy that's pooping on them.
Right. No,
and so, for a long, long time, I've been providing daily intelligence briefings to the president and his Marines, and I'm going to keep right on doing it until victory is ours. And I believe with every fiber in my heart, my soul, my mind, and my mouth, I believe this will be public knowledge by sundown on the 4th of July.
By sundown? So you're before the fireworks show?
Yes, because Trump will be speaking, I think, at 6:30 p.m. Eastern.
I thought he was going to do it just before the fireworks got kicked off, right? So that's at 9:30. But I might be wrong. I might be wrong.
I might be wrong too. But it's funny that we talk about 4th of July and fireworks, because whatever incendiary devices are going up in the sky, that's nothing compared to the truth that will be coming out of the mouth of our president when he speaks before the fireworks. And just like he likes to say he is the storm, in this case, I think I would be accurate in saying he will be the fireworks.
Actually, I tend to agree with that. There was one other thing you mentioned I wanted to cover it before we finish up for tonight, and it was you mentioned something about an act that was passed in the 1870s, 1871, I think you said.
What? The Organic Act.
Now, I looked that up, okay? And I got back about 23,000 responses. And of the first 3 pages that I scrolled through, there are various acts called the Organic Act in essentially every state and variety of different times. So my question is, which one, if I want to go and research this, of course that's what I like to do, where's the dog pile? Where do I go to get this exactly? Give me the exact name or the title or whatever it is I'm looking for so I can go find it.
It's the Organic Act of 1871 that admitted and created and published that the District of Columbia is sovereign territory. And, if any of the states had similar organic acts, that just means they're responding to the lead from the federal government, which is a bad term. Federal is a very bad term. But in 1871, the closet traders came out of the closet and admitted that they are running the United States of America as a colony that takes all the sweat, blood, effort, intellectual property of American citizens and delivers it to the United Kingdom and to a lesser degree to the Jesuits in the Vatican. And what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to take the easy way out. I'm going to ask my chat room, which I'm not in. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? Hang on. I'll get in my chat room. To the Able Danger, the Children's Crusade chat room, that can, oh boy, they've got all sorts of pictures of Theresa May and Vladimir Putin. Oh, this is, you ought to be in my chat room. I mean, I claim all the time that our chat room is the fastest, the most well-informed, and by a wide measure, the most lethal chat room in the world. And we are. And if anybody wants to argue that, they can come over to my show and we'll argue it for about 3 nanoseconds and it'll be over. You know, it's not kind to injure people. If you're going to, in terms of a military sense, it's much, and I have a pretty good military background. I got out of the military when I did because they were trying to give me more authority and more rank and more money. That's a trap. I mean, if you're working for God, you aren't going to need any more of anything. He's going to give you what you deserve for the service to him and his people in his world. And I'm not saying I'm a good person. I'm not saying I'm a part of the moral police. I'm a human, but I'm a human who at the age, what age would I have been in 2006? Yeah, at the age of now we got to get into the month. It was December. Yeah, December 4th of 2006. I was 57, and I willingly surrendered to Christ. And I said, use me any way you want to use me, and I do not care what it costs me. And God knew exactly what I was saying. I would be a warrior for him and an enemy to Satan, even if it got me killed, because I know where I'm going next. And you know what? If you know you're going to heaven, because God said it, and God does never make a mistake, and he couldn't lie, well, I'm going to heaven. The only reason I don't want to go right now is, first and foremost, it's not God's will. You know, he'll take me when he wants me, but if anybody in my family or any of my circle of friends ever feels bad when I die, and I will die, but I won't die at the hands of the enemies of God. I will die because of the grace and the mercy and the fantastic out-of-this-world retirement plan that he has promised to me. As long as I don't cower, I don't give in, I don't negotiate, God created the world, he created me, and I'm here to help him educate people to understand the omnipotence of him and the great love and mercy he has for all of us, even those who don't know him or deny him.
You know, you mentioned essentially your rebirth date. I'll tell you mine, because mine is just as bright and clear as yours. Not the same date, of course. Mine was much more recent.
Okay.
I was serving the enemy, as I've mentioned to you offline.
Yep.
And I didn't know the depth of it. I don't know why I'm trying to be defensive about it, but I just didn't understand what the implications were of what I was doing. Yep. Anyway, on August 1st, 2015, that's my birthday.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're still on fire for the Lord.
There's nothing else for me, nothing else for Buttercup. We're game on, you know.
Yeah.
We just love it. We love what he's doing. We love this movement. We love the people in it. It is such an absolute blessing. And we spend all of our time, almost all of our time, literally, working on this because it is that important. It is literally that important. And
I think it's the most important thing in the world. The first thing that's important is once somebody explains to you, any of you, I'm in my chat room right now where I feel very comfortable. And in my chat room, the person at the top is 3M. I'm going to scroll down and see who the person at the bottom is. Oh, interesting. We are blessed. But my chat room understands the mission, and they understand that we need to put on the full armor of God. That's written about in Ephesians 6:10-17, but I think it really focuses on 17, which brings up something about 9/11.
Ephesians 12, that's the one that really, it goes after it. There's the principalities and powers in the dark. Yeah, I see it on your wall. That's Ephesians 5:11, right? Have nothing to do with the...
Oh, can you see my wall right now?
I can see part of it. I can see 5:1, and then that cuts off.
Oh, that's over there. You ought to see what's here. It says Ephesians 5:11, and then comma, and then 6:10-17.
Yeah.
And between 10 to 17 of 6, 12 would be in there. But I want to educate you now, and I apologize I'm not talking down to you.
Bring it.
We're brothers.
Yep, I'm in.
Yep. But I think it's in 17, he talks about the sword of truth, which is the word of God. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, this is going to blow your mind. On 9/11, the United States of America owned 4 doomsday machines. They're called E-4Bs. One of them was photographed flying right over the U.S. Capitol, which is illegal. But of the 4 E-4Bs that were airborne on 9/11, so the bad people in the deep state could gloat as they watched what was supposed to be the end of the United States. This is critical that I say this clearly, and please take notes. It's not much notes, but there were 3 aircraft, but there were 4 call signs. I'm going to tell you what the aircraft were, and I will spell it. Venus, VENUS 77. Now I'm having a senior moment. Oh, Vivi, VIVI 36. So repeat after me, please. Good dog. Did you hear Venus 77 and Vivi 36?
Roger that.
Okay, so that's 2 of the 3 airplanes, but it's 2 of 4 call signs. This is gonna cement your faith, but also blow your mind. The 2 other call signs were Sword 31 and Word, WORD 31. The reason they had 4 call signs for 3 aircraft was somebody in the command structure of the United States Air Force was aware of what was happening, and they wanted to put breadcrumbs out so some Christian that is fluent in aviation would be able to pick up on Sword 31 and Word 31. It's because in Ephesians 10:17 it says the sword of truth, which is the word of God. That statement right there should be one of the bullet statements in history regarding 9/11. Some believer. You couldn't put that together if you didn't know scripture. And whoever put that together, I figured it out, and I'm sure other people did too. But what it means is somebody in the Air Force chain of command was aware of the treason, and they wanted to leave breadcrumbs. So whoever found the breadcrumbs could feed the hunger of the people in the United States and the world that want to know how somebody imputed a 41-minute delay in the departure of United 93. Because if United 93 had departed on time from, Newark Liberty Airport, it would have hit the target, which I believe, and I'll argue this with anybody, I believe the target was the U.S. Capitol, because on that morning, both the Congress and the Senate and the Congress they were supposed to be in there. And one of the bad people that we've addressed earlier tonight, one of the bad people that demonstrated what a coward he always has been, when they found out that there was an aircraft that looked like it was bearing down on Washington after the Pentagon attack had already been culminated, whoever runs the Senate, there's a name for whoever's the guy in charge, not the highest Senate, but the person who has like a military control over the Senate. They announced that the Capitol had to be, meaning the Capitol building, had to be evacuated immediately because there's an unknown track, which was United 93, that looks like it's targeting the Washington, D.C. area. And so let's play it safe and get out of here. John Kerry, Howard Immaculate.
Hold on one second. We got a dog situation. I want to hear this. Don't lose where you're at.
Yeah, John. Oh, your dog's okay. Let me tell you something. I get criticized all the time when I broadcast for background noises, for eating. I tell people all the time, if I don't eat I'm not eating on your show, by the way. If I don't eat when I'm doing a radio show, I'd starve, because I'm either creating new radio shows or sleeping. I only have two speeds, sleep or work. But anyway, the guy who came out of the Capitol building, John Kerry, was so cowardly, and he knew what was going on. He knew what was going on, just as John McCain, my sister Hillary, Bill, G.H.W. Bush.
You're blowing my next week's shows, because that's where we're going.
Well, let me tell you this.
Please go on. Please continue. So keep going.
Yeah, John Kerry came out of the Capitol building with so much cowardice and energy that he knocked a woman over on the Capitol steps. Now, if you knocked a woman over, or if I knocked a woman over, we would turn around and help them to their feet and apologize. Not him. He knocked a woman over and kept on running because he's nothing other than a Khazarian Jew. I'm not anti-Jew. I'm anti-Khazarians. Kerry is a Khazarian, and he doesn't respect women, and he doesn't respect America. And if it comes down to me or him surviving, I'd put a lot of money on me, because that guy is so ridden with guilt for being a coward. And, the only reason I think that he's got any wealth is because he married a widow named Ketchup. Oh, excuse me, Hines. Yeah. No, there's a whole lot. We're just scratching the surface here. But I hope that your next three shows are very good. I'll give you one more thing to ponder.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea who was in the White House on the night of September 10th, which was the night before the attack of 9/11? Do you know which senior politician historically was in the White House? And I will tell you that it was not the president, George W. Bush. Go ahead.
Was not the president, George W. Bush. Who would it have been? I know that Mueller had just assumed the power of FBI director earlier that week. Not even the week before, earlier that week. And that would have been...
Let me rule out Mueller. Let me just tell you, because it's getting late. George H.W. Bush was in the White House because he made $1 trillion cash in the attack of 9/11, and he wanted to make sure nobody, including his son George W., got in the way. That is the most evil bastard I'm aware of that ever abused America. And I know a lot of politicians.
Wait. I don't want to miss that. You just said something I had not heard before. George W. Bush Sr. was in the
No,
White
no,
House?
George H.W. Bush.
H.W. Bush.
Yeah.
Okay. He was in the White House on 9/11 or 9/10, 2011.
Yeah, the night of 9/10, he was in there because he wanted to be hands-on when the attack happened, because he's the guy that organized it. My sister helped. My sister is Christine Marcy. George H.W. Bush in 1978 asked her to create the United States Senior Executive Service, which is a bunch of traitors that are very highly paid, and they're serving Satan. And if anybody from the U.S. Senior Executive Service wants to argue that with me, please come to my radio show. I'll make you the host, and you can try to pester me. But the truth is, if somebody has the truth in them, you're not probably going to win the debate.
Right. No. I get that.
Yeah.
That is, I was unaware of that. I was completely unaware of that. So, wow, what a ranging show. We have covered a tremendous range of things. And I've got our next conversation when we have it. I've got it squared away. I'll be coming to you and talking about what happened on the 4th. My own sense, I haven't thrown it out, and generally I don't throw it out in advance, but I will do it in this case. I think that you're onto something with the Fed. I don't know that he's gonna come out all the way with doing away with the Fed and launching a new gold-backed currency. I would suspect that one of those two things will happen.
Well, let me just tell you something that you can research for yourself and prove it to yourself. You ready?
Sure.
Okay, the Federal Reserve, the operative office is in Reno, Nevada. I'm going to tell you exactly where it is. At the Sparks, Reno Indian Colony. That's where the new IRS, the new Fed, and the new Treasury Department are headquartered. That is a fact. But let me tell you the most significant portion. I just told you the name of the Indian reservation, and I'm part Indian, so I can say that. I'm not going to waste my words and say Native American. I'm not politically correct. I am lethally accurate. There's a big, big difference. Bill Maher can line up and kiss my derriere if he doesn't like my mouth. The reason why Trump put the Fed, the IRS, and the Treasury at Sparks, Reno Indian Colony is because that's sovereign soil. That's not U.S. soil. That's an Indian reservation. And if somebody comes out there and tries to attack the Indians and the Marines, they're not going to, probably, 30% of them will die instantly, and the rest of them will run off like the sissies they are, just like John Kerry.
Right. Oh, yeah, right. That's right on.
Yep.
Okay. Wow, that's very interesting. What are you going to be doing on the 4th? Do you have any plans?
Well, actually, some people, I think this is true. There are some people in Trump's circle that have invited me and my wife to go out there. I don't think we'll be going. I just don't like Washington, D.C. I don't like anything about the history. I don't like crowds. Even though I publicly speak because God called me to, I'd rather just be at home with my wife, working in the backyard or mowing the lawn. But I'll do on the 4th whatever God asks me to do, and I'll do it with no fear or favor. I'm not afraid of anybody. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of falling short of what it is that Jesus Christ demands of me.
Well, can I make a comment? More of a challenge. And first of all, I agree with the sentiment that staying home with your wife and doing Lord's work is the right answer generally.
Yep.
But in this case, if it was me and I had a chance to go do that, I'd go. Yep. And I'll tell you why. If what you say is correct, if all the things that you just rattle off are right, this will be the first time that the American people have been free since the Civil War.
Actually, not to correct you, it's the first time the American people have been free since 1606. And I think it was back then, it was called the Virginia Colony or the Virginia Charter. But that's how early we were captive. And we've never been free of the English. And we've never, I don't believe until Trump came along, we've been free of the Vatican Jesuits. And before any Catholics get offended, the Vatican Jesuits are not ever supposed to be a pope. The Vatican Jesuits are the military and the intelligence branch of the Vatican. So what we're doing, you and I and your audience and my chat room, what we are doing is we're finding out that all of us in America have been lied to about our true history. But I want you to call me on the 4th of July if Donald Trump doesn't set America free and take credit for it. And he should take credit for it, because no chief executive of the United States since Kennedy had descended testicles. And Donald J. Trump, wild hair and all, he's got a set of testicles the size of volleyballs.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I was just going to say that I will do that. I'll call you on the 4th. And I think that maybe we'll do a special show. If that actually happens, I'm going to do a special show, and I'm going to have you on the show, and we're going to walk it through, because it'll match up well with some of the things that I've been working on that are part of the show prep. And I like to lay things out and do it, months in advance. So that'd be a fun thing to do. I think it's a little bit aggressive. I don't think that'll happen on that date, but I would be happily surprised, and I also accept your correction of 1606. I think is what you said.
Yes,
but the Mayflower didn't land in 1606, right?
No, it landed in 1620. But some other people, see, you're confusing when people left England. By the way, a very good history lesson for everybody that has YouTube is go to YouTube, put in Steppenwolf, and put in monster. The entire education system of the United States of America, from kindergarten through PhD, nowhere does the education system provide the true history of America like Steppenwolf does in their 8-minute song called Monster. And that's what we've been up against, is monsters. I just noticed that one of the regulars in our chat room, who I call the Telford Russian, has just put up the link from Maine Republic Mail Report.com 2019-0608, the correct analysis. And I will send that to you as soon as we get off the air.
I can't wait to read. I love reading, and this is going to be great stuff to go through. What an absolute pleasure it's been having you on tonight, and a very wide-ranging and lively conversation. The chat has been really good. We covered the Merkel question. I think that was one of the key ones they wanted to see. I make your notes regarding the 1871 Act, and I will certainly get behind that and understand it. And I will call you on the 4th. I can't wait. It's going to be absolutely great. And either way you look at it, our nation is having a birthday. And this struggle that the Q has been about, and what this channel is about, is all about all of mankind. This is not about just the United States. It's about all of us, and it's all one language. It's the truth, right? The truth will set you free, and it's knowing Jesus Christ, and this is really an important thing. It's the most important thing there is. So I want to thank you for being part of it and being part of the show. It really has been exciting.
Can I give you a compliment before we say goodnight?
Sure.
I've said this to many people that I communicate with. When you had me on last Friday, I told people, well, I can't wait. Well, let's go back to March. You did an interview with me, which John B. Wells and the organization lost control of, and it's not out there anywhere.
Right. I remember it, though. I remember the whole thing.
Well, good, because that was the best interview anybody's ever done of me, including John B. Wells. But another guy who, my phone's ringing. Let me just see who this is. I probably am going to deny it. Yeah, I'm going to deny it. Yeah, it's the one person that knows me very well, but he can call into my show anytime he wants, but I don't appreciate people calling into your show. So I'll get a hold of him later. What you did with me in March of this year, I was in England, and that was the best interview I ever gave. But it's not because of me, because of all my materials old and dated, because I've known it for so long. But your questions, and also the fact that you'll let me run on until I come up for air, I have an urge to get this information out of my head before God calls me home. So you've interviewed me 3 times, last Friday, this Friday, and back in March. Without a doubt, you're the most capable interviewer I've ever worked with. And I mean that sincerely.
Wow. That is, I take that as a great compliment. I love the work that you're doing, and I love what you stand for. And I have to say it's mutual. I have to also say that, so much of this material field is really dark. I mean, it's really dark. And I keep a real tight lid on the language that is used. And I also, Buttercup is a witness, I struggle sometimes with not judging those who I'm studying and examining and researching. And so I really, really appreciate your comment, because it's hard to maintain sometimes when you see what they have done. And all of this is coming out. And the end is not that far away. To be honest with you, it's in our lifetimes,
Yeah.
And it's gonna come to an end. And there's a reason that this is such an important thing, and why we all really need to get behind it. If you haven't had a chance to talk to your lovely wife and maybe even consider doing a psalm, I wanna encourage you to do that, because there's only 150 of them, and I think now what are we up to, honey? About 30 or 40 of them maybe now being done. She's thinking about it. It's about right. There's only 110 or so left, 109. And so, please do, if you can, do it, because it's something it'll resonate, and it'll survive past us for the people who really need to hear it. And we give it away for free, by the way. We're not making any money on it, that's for sure. But it's extremely important, I think. Probably the most important thing we're doing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I would encourage you to also, when you get off the air, make sure you pay attention to Buttercup, because sometimes when people like you or me put a lot of energy into sharing the truth, the energy is not created nor denied. It's any energy we give to humanity and to God, we might be taking some energy away from our spouse. And I know you don't want to do that. I can guarantee you I don't want to do it.
Oh, of course. I mean, Buttercup is awesome.
I know she is.
We're like crazy.
We were at the same table at Operation Classified. Yeah. I was at table 8. I believe you were at table 9.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, why do you think God did that?
God has shown me a couple of things. I think there was a reason for that, and we haven't yet seen it, but I've seen where it's coming. That's all I can say. It's a big deal.
I believe that Denise and I will be living in Texas, somewhere between Canton, Athens, and Tyler, and we're going to have a broadcast facility. And I don't even think I'm worthy of broadcasting, but I do think I've got a pretty good memory. I don't get fooled very often by people that are trying to fool Americans. And, I'm an American. I've been blessed to have a very interesting, I don't want to say professional life, because I'm anything but professional. But if you want to get down in the mud and wrestle with somebody, don't try it with me.
Right on.
Yeah. So God prepares us all for serving him. And that's why I serve him. And that's why I hope my wife's listening right now. So she would know that I'll be home here before much longer.
All right. Well, awesome. And what a pleasure tonight. And we'll talk to you next week. Have a great weekend.
Okay. And I'm going to get that link and send it to you within 2 minutes after we go off. In fact, I just got another one, so it might be 3 minutes. But no, now I got another one. My chat room is fully engaged. And when I asked the question once, could somebody find me evidence of the proper Organic Act of 1871? I've got 3 answers from 3 different people already. So I better not keep you away from Buttercup. But, call me anytime. And I'm not one of those people who needs to have a notice or, I don't need to know what we're going to talk about. Because no matter what I know you don't really, you don't try to force the situation. There's other people, and I could name them, but that's improper. There's people who want to keep on the flight path, so to speak. They want to set the boundaries of what we're going to talk about. Well, how can you put boundaries on the truth, and how can you put handcuffs on God's power?
You can't. Period.
No, I know.
End of story.
So let her rip, potato chip. And see, I use colorful language on my show for a purpose, but I also don't want to offend anybody on anyone else's show. And that's why I really sort of stepped around the issue of Merkin and some other things, because it makes people's head explode when they find out how much they don't know.
Amen to that. Hey, by the way, one last thing. In Discord, for those that don't know, you can go onto my site. It's at the top of the page. It's all those little white links. One of them is Discord. Click on that. Go into that. Join, because I do host hours over there, and we've turned on the chat area where we can actually all talk. And so there is an opportunity now for a community discussion. And we research all through the day and through the night, as you know, and so I welcome those to join in the discussion. I did get an invitation to your chat room, by the way, and I want to apologize for not already having accepted it. I haven't, only because my computer issues that you know so well. Yeah. And so, but we're getting on top of that. I'm going to get new broadcasting software. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be different. This thing is terrible, and it's just miserable not knowing why it is that the manual doesn't read properly. It just drives me bananas. But we'll figure it out. One way or another, we'll figure all this out. Oh, goodness. Oh, all right. Well, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
That sounds good. You and Buttercup have a good night, and take good care of your dog, whose name is Pee-wee or something like that.
Pipsqueak.
That's what I meant to say. When I said Pee-wee, I meant Pipsqueak. So have a good night, a good rest of your life. Take good care of Buttercup, and enjoy your time, and know that you're on the right path according to God.
Oh, amen. Amen.
Amen.
Ooh.
Okay.
All right.
Well, good night from Plum City.
Good night from, somewhere in Texas. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, don't worry. I'd never squeal and say that you're in Athens or Gun Barrel City. But anyway, wherever you are, have a good night. And I think you really provided some really good, thought-provoking information to get distributed tonight.
Amen to that. You certainly provided the answers, too. So, all right, we'll talk to you next time. Good night. Bye-bye.
That sounds good. Bye-bye.
Step on Tyranny. Support our channel and support a Patriot-owned business, all at the same time. Go to steponsocks.com/gooddog.